Davante Adams, and I'll give you some behind the scenes here. It started, I guess, with my friend and colleague, Michael Fabiano, on his Sports Illustrated Fantasy Football show saying, yeah, I got little birds out there, like that one character from Game of Thrones, Viserys. I forget the name of the guy. Uh, he was saying that on his fantasy,
Varys.
yeah, Varys, saying, yeah, I'm hearing whispers about the Raiders shopping Davante Adams. And then I want to say Antonio Pierce's Instagram account liked the post from Sports Illustrated
Yes.
showing the clip of Michael Fabiano. And I thought two things are in there. I'm like, okay, maybe Pierce is saying like, oh, okay, yeah, right, you're hearing things. We'll talk about later in the week. Bull S. Or maybe it's saying, yeah, we actually are shopping him. We are confirming that. And then you see Davante Adams on Up and Adams with K Adams saying, yeah, I haven't heard from AP. I don't know what's going on. It was a very awkward interview. It felt like K Adams was surprised that he said that about Antonio Pierce, saying he hasn't heard back, where it kind of clicked like, hey, these rumors might be real. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
so, so when everything came out later today saying from Ian Rappaport, Adam Schefter saying, well, Davante Adams would prefer to be traded. I want to know, did he feel that way after AP liked the Instagram post? Was it like, hey, you know what? That's kind of messed up. I haven't heard from you. The way
Right.
K Adams reacted kind of tells me that's weird. I haven't heard from my coach. So let me go put out the I guess the Ravens out there and say, hey, I don't like this. I'd rather be traded. So, or was Davante always wanted to be the one traded? Or maybe Davante was one of those guys that didn't give the full effort during that
Oh,
Panthers
yeah.
loss, business decisions. So I can't get a read here, and I can't wait for Antonio Pierce to talk to the media on Wednesday. Was it accidental like? And Victor, I have a theory about that one. I want to say he's going to say it was an accidental like, but if you watch that episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where you do the accidental text on purpose, I think he did an accidental like on purpose so he could piss off Davante, and he's going to ask for a request for a trade, and then you got all this going on. So, your thoughts about the mess going on with the Las Vegas Raiders?
Yeah, I kind of saw this coming last week at the end of the week, Gilbert, when Davante Adams, or on Friday, I should say, when Antonio Pierce during his presser with the uh with the assembled media there with the B writers said that Davante Adams and Max Crosby were going to miss the game against the Browns. Um, I just figured at that point. Remember, the week before was the whole business stuff. Like some people made business decision, Gilbert, and one thing was that Jack Jones did get he did get benched in the first quarter against the Browns. With Davante Adams, once the whole hamstring thing came about, I was like, yeah, he was going to be one of those guys that was going to get benched. And this is the thing with when you have a player's coach and he actually is a guy that's going to go and do something about it. That you see guys like Davante Adams, he's like, I'm not. And then this goes back to the preseason, Gilbert. Remember too, they Antonio Pierce wanted the starters to play against Minnesota, and then Devontae was like, "Yeah, no, I don't play in the preseason, bro." And then you had to make the decision, and then I think by then Antonio Pierce was like, "Look, I can only do so much before I decide. You know what? I'm not gonna keep doing this with Devontae Adams." And then you could tell too. I mean, I know a lot of people use that clip of Jack Jones not putting in the effort. Davante Adams also wasn't putting the effort against the Panthers there, Gilbert. He was dropping some catchable balls there. He wasn't doing what he needed to do. So I kind of saw this coming on Friday. And then by then, I just, this whole thing kind of turned. The other thing, Gilbert, the last thing I'll say about this is that he has no guarantee money going forward. So it makes it easy for the Raiders to go ahead and trade him and get something back now, because why are you going to keep him the rest of the season and not get anything for him when he can just walk? You can cut him, do a June 1st cut, and then move on from him. So you try to get something now, and then which makes sense from Tom Telesco's point of view and the Raiders, and then you try to get something now, Gilbert.
Yeah, before I share my thoughts here, I'll answer some or show some comments here. Athir, you're not late. I know you got questions, so go ahead and
Yep.
ask them, Athir. You are okay. And I got Alonso, a good friend,
Yes,
for college friend too from Cal State Northern. Shout out to you, Alonso. Says
he
up
is a
compas.
compa.
Uh, there. And then yes, had to make it about the Raiders today. Victor, you have to talk about the Raiders.
Yes.
But going back to the whole business decisions there, and you know, I gotta applaud Antonio Pierce. I was getting him crap, and I'm like, you're gonna say bold stuff like that, and if some of these star players are the ones that they checked out early from this blowout, oh man, you better not hesitate. You better not be afraid to clash with some star players, because it could definitely send the wrong message in the locker room saying, okay, well, that player gets special treatment. You're full of crap, anyways. Antonio Pierce. Oh, you like to throw the players under the bus? Okay, let's see what you got there. So I do also wonder about Max Crosby, because, like you mentioned, Davante Adams, that get mystery injury at the end of the week. Saying a little, I guess maybe Max Crosby was actually hurt. Uh,
No, he was. I mean, they taped up that ankle. He wasn't there. That was the other thing, Gilbert, that was a bit surprising was Max wasn't at the game on Sunday versus the Browns, so he was actually getting treatment. Devontae was at the game, which is weird too. That was the other thing
yeah.
too.
So again, I don't want to go one way too soon, because I want to hear what Antonio Pierce has to say. And I know they asked him about Jack Jones, and he said that's between me and Jack, so maybe he won't touch on it. But I love that he benched Jack Jones for the first quarter. He was an obvious person who checked out, as everybody saw on social media, that he was not really going for tackles there at the end of that game against the Panthers. So, and then they won that game without the best two players, Davante Adams and no Max Crosby. So that
Yeah.
that says, okay, Antonio Pierce was the real deal. He wasn't bluffing. He was not all talk. He was more action. And once he showed his cards and saying, you know what, I'm not, I'm not just all talk here. I think people maybe were like, okay, all right, let's play for our coach here. And they beat the Browns. They are still the Browns, but I know the Deshaun Watson Browns were different, but they still have a good defense. I know there's a lot of issues on the offensive side for the Raiders, but when you don't have your two best players and you get a W like that after your coach challenges you all week, I think that says something big there. So, and then AP liking the Instagram post,
Oh yeah.
I started thinking about going back to the actual trade here, Victor. I'm like, okay, if he really feels like Davante Adams is checked out, he better be nudging Tom Telesco and saying, "Get this guy out of here. I want guys who
Yeah.
want to be part of this team, who buy into what I'm saying. I can't work like this. I know he's a star player. Uh, Go ahead and do what you got to do, but I don't want him here on my team. Go get value." And the cool thing about also trading Davante Adams, like I know people like to kind of like do trade things. Like you're not gonna get a first round pick.
No.
He's an older player who's going to want a new contract. It's
Oh
probably going
yeah.
to be a second round pick, and you go ahead and take it. But if you add more draft picks here, Vic, the one thing I've been saying about the Raiders, they are stuck in mediocre land, and when you get in
Hmm.
mediocre land, it's hard to get out of it. And you get 8 wins, 9 wins, and then you don't have a top 10 pick. You're 15, 14. A bit of this year when 6 quarterbacks were drafted in the top 12. They were number 13. Good player in Brock Bowers. That's why you don't want to reach for a player or quarterback. You still got Bowers. But if you have that extra capital there, AP could still play to win, coach to win,
Hmm.
and then build that winning culture. And yeah, maybe you do get 8, 9 wins again, and you're in the same situation. You're mediocre, but now you have an extra capital to maybe trade up in the draft to get a quarterback. So from all that kind of point of view, I think AP is having a good week. I mean, you might lose Davante Adams. That doesn't sound right, but you got to go all in and buy into your culture. Same thing with Tom Telesco. Get the players who want to be here, build it for the long haul, and I think they should trade him right away, Vic.
Yeah, and then the other thing, if you're a Raider fan that you're excited about, Gilbert, and I know Charger fans aren't going to be happy with what I have to say, but Tom Telesco, Gilbert, I mean, the first three picks, they're contributing already. You have Brock Bowers, you have DJ Glaze, who started at right tackle, and you have JPJ, who kind of went back and forth between right guard and left guard. And so those draft picks are starting to do something. You have a bunch of undrafted guys that are playing already. You, as you talked about, two guys went down this week and everybody stepped up. The other thing that I thought was, as you talked about Antonio Pierce, that was really encouraging, was the fact that even though Davante Adams wasn't there, the offense got to be opened up. They ran more RPOs. They were able to get the ball all around to the different guys, and so that also tells you that Davante Adams is pretty demanding, and I get it. Like losing Davante Adams to an offense that was already struggling isn't supposed to make things better. But how do you how do you tell people when you look at this offense last week and they were able to move the ball without Davante Adams? The best they've looked since that last quarter against the Ravens, Gilbert. I mean, there's a reason why. And when you have a frustrated or disgruntled wide receiver, we've seen what happens. We've seen how what happened with the Bills once they traded, Stephon Diggs. Like sometimes it's just best to just, it's better to have someone be gone than have them there and be disgruntled.
Yeah, let's talk about some trade scenarios, and then we'll move on here and answer
Yes.
some questions that are not Raiders related. But all good things says any possibility of Devontae reuniting with Rodgers, and that's where I guess all the signs are pointing there because obviously Devontae and Aaron
Yep.
Rodgers know each other. They want to play together in New York, and yeah, if anybody's trying to get Garrett Wilson, well, the Raiders should get Garrett Wilson. That'd be nice, but I don't think the Jets would do that. That'd be very foolish to do that. I know people are frustrated with Garrett Wilson in the fantasy football world, but uh, you know, it takes a team effort, and I think he's still one of the premier wide receivers in the NFL. Yeah, it's been a struggle because last year was terrible, and then this year people are keen on him because he's a face of the offense, but that could be the possibility. Maybe a second round pick, maybe day two picks, a second rounder and a third rounder. I think for the Raiders, the more picks the better. So in case you do get a couple more wins that you don't want to get when it comes to the draft, you can move up and package that into a deal for Shadur Sanders or Carson Beck or Quinn Ewers, who got his job maybe stolen by Arch Manning. But that's for down the road. You want to have enough picks to maybe move up and make a move, and it's tough to crack into the top three, but I know this year's quarterbacks aren't like last year, where you for sure had a number one, a number two, a number three. They might be a little more scattered out, but you never know when college football the way this season will end. Uh, you know, a couple of teams come to mind. The ones that were involved with Brandon Ayuk. You got the Patriots. That'd be pretty funny. Go to New England then, Devontae. If the Raiders do that to him, that'd be pretty.
The Washington Commanders, your
Commanders.
Washington
The Commanders are doing well. But I'm trying to think because Commanders are in the stage where they're kind of they're good, but they're not Super Bowl good. But they're young, and you want to keep your picks to keep growing. But yeah, it'll be nice to kind of maybe speed that up with Terry McLaurin and Davante Adams. And the other one was the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have George Pickens, and that's about it. Maybe they'll want to answer the call. I do not see a trade inside the division. Imagine the Raiders trading the Davante to the Chiefs because
to
they lost
Chiefs.
Rasheed Rice, or maybe to the Chargers because they're hurting a wide receiver. That will not happen. I think so. At least imagine top 10. Let's go trade Davante to the Chargers. I don't think so, Vic.
Yeah, no, I don't see that either. I've seen some Charger fans as well asking if they'll, but I'm with Rick Peterson here too. I mean, New Orleans, so he can go play with his college teammate. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
the
again.
possibilities are yeah, the possibilities are endless here. I think for the Raiders, I think it's just getting the best possible trade. You also have all good things saying AJ for Devontae straight up. I doubt that happens. I
He
mean,
just got paid in Philly.
they're both dealing with hamstrings.
Mm.
But we'll see what happens there. And then Alonso says Devontae for Garrett Wilson is like Kawhi for DeRozan. So there you go.
So does Garrett Wilson like Kawhi or who's who in this scenario? But yeah,
I
it's
would say yeah, well, I would say Kawhi is Devontae, and I guess DeRozan is Garrett Wilson because DeRozan was younger at that time. I would
mm,
imagine.
I guess I know people are mad about Garrett Wilson, but he is much
Yes.
younger, and I'd rather have Garrett Wilson than Devontae Adams. I hate to say it, but I do. I don't know what you think,
Yeah,
Vic,
you
but
get the guy with the younger guy. I just don't understand why the Jets would do it, but hey, who am I to tell them
if
no?
Rodgers is saying in their ear, "I want Devontae, and I don't care what it costs," they might do it.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is with the Jets is you have 1 year left probably of Rodgers. Are you willing to give all that up? Or I mean, there's already problems with Salah and Rodgers. I mean, unless you're, it's just it's if I'm a Jets fan, I understand getting Davante Adams, but why would you want to give up Garrett Wilson? And then I just think if you're the Raiders, you just want draft picks, as you mentioned,
Mm.
Gilbert.